Yeah. So my new thing, my wife hated this at first because I have never been one that partakes in nicotine, but I've noticed that it gives me extreme mental clarity. And I think I have, my generation, they didn't diagnose ADD, and but I'm pretty sure it's severe, and this like seems to tone me down and focus me. So that's my new tradition that I was talking about.
Nice.
I literally can't open the container right there. We go. Do you want?
Sure.
Oh, wait, that's weird. Here, I tried to hand it to you in my hand. Here, let me put it in your mouth. That's even weirder. They're only 3 milligrams, but that seems fine for me. They don't make me throw up, and I think if I get anything more than that, it's because I don't partake any other time. I'd probably throw up.
I'm a big cigar guy. It's like smoking a whole pack of cigarettes all at once.
Get her done in one shot.
Oh yeah, you start oozing. It's fantastic.
I've never done well with cigars. Like I've definitely smoked a few, but like the taste in my mouth afterwards of like complete dog shit for hours.
Yeah,
I
that's
can't handle that. Yeah, that's been the thing that got me. So
wash it out with hard alcohol, makes it all better.
That's yes. And I probably at the time, was like drinking like Old English malt liquor or something, which is probably not the best combination, to be honest. That was before my bourbon days, when I was a younger man.
Before you got classy.
Before I got classied up, and now I drink bourbon and zen and sit around and have conversations. So good living now. Well, there you go, everybody. There's the my thoughts on nicotine, and look at that. We got some bourbon glasses out. It's Memorial Day that we're recording this, so it seems fitting. We can throw some down for the homies.
Absolutely should.
Yeah, I'm down, dude. Here, this glass is relatively clean. I rinsed it.
That stuff's 100 proof. It'll be fine.
Shit. Is it?
So it's not a disease if everybody has it.
That's exactly right. Thanks, sir. Cheers.
Happy Memorial Day.
Yeah. I need to tell the story of how we met. I should probably say your name too. I haven't even said that. Oh, that's good.
Not bad, eh?
What are we drinking there? What is that?
This is Bibb and Tucker 10-year. The 10-year is real hard to find. I have to smuggle it in from other states.
Oh.
You can get 6 and 8-year here, and the 6-year is generally at the Hayden store, but
okay,
dollar for dollar is fantastic stuff.
That's smooth.
Blanton's is getting so hard to find.
Yeah.
Thank you, John Wick.
He did ruin it for everybody.
Oh, he really did. It's like the latest fad.
That and some guns he's changed and make them impossible to find anymore. So there's that side of things. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Pat Krenz here today. We met in a fantastic fashion, and that's where I'm going to start this saga. And I actually don't know a lot about you, and I intentionally didn't ask a lot while we were setting up. He came early and he helped me hang a bunch of crap on the walls, so I appreciate that. Because I like to have the discovery during the conversation, right? It's like genuine. I literally know almost nothing about your background. So you got tattoos and you're muscular. I'm like, well, shit, you fit the bill there. So there's that. So we met. That was the K-27 Memorial Gala, right?
It was.
And that he was a Coeur d'Alene police sergeant. Was killed in the line of duty some years back. And it was put on by the Coeur d'Alene Police Foundation. So our team was there. And I showed up in, this was very strategic of me. I wore a camouflage blazer. Sounds rather white trash, I know. But that damn thing was a hit. I had a lot of people come up to me and talk and introduce themselves, and it was cool. So I'm really glad I wore it. And I was at the bar buying a bourbon for myself and something for my wife. Pat came up to me and was like, "Hey, it's a hell of a fucking blazer. Let me buy you a drink." And I was like, well, shit. So there, ladies and gentlemen, that cheap Chinese blazer paid for itself. So well worth it. And that's how we met.
I just assumed it was American made. I haven't seen that camel since Vietnam, though.
Well, if you look closely, it was literally falling apart at the seams. It was brand new. It took forever to get to my house from wherever it came from.
It went really well with the camo pattern, man. That shit had to be encased on 68.
It was, it was cool. I got to find an American made one now. Now I'm on a mission of I try to get most of my clothes made in America. That's so damn hard to do now. That's why got my Origin shirt on. I went with Origin jeans for a while, but the fit was just not working for me. So
Yeah, I bought a pair. They're almost like spandex.
yes,
I can't.
I got my normal size and they're like skinny jeans. And I'm like, I refuse to wear skinny jeans. So yeah, way too much testosterone for that. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I gave it away.
I gave mine away
I
too.
tend to skip leg day, man. I can't be wearing skinny jeans.
I don't believe that. So what do you do? Actually, let's start from the beginning. What's your background? I got nothing here. I know nothing about you.
Awesome.
Yeah. You're going to be like, well, I was a school teacher in kindergarten.
Yeah, I learned. I grew up. I grew up in Southern California. Like 50% of the people that live here in Coeur d'Alene.
It might be more than that, actually.
Probably.
Might be 80. Yeah.
The only thing we all have in common is we all hate Californians. We want to pull the ladder up behind us when we move up here. Like, stop coming here. Property values are going insane. Nobody can buy a home.
Yeah, there's truth to that. I'm thankful. Like, the only Californians I deal with are people that they're like all like us. So I meet them. I'm like, damn, we could be best friends. And I'm like, it works out really well for me. I imagine there are other types moving here. They just are not drawn to like the style or the branding, I guess, that we portray in our real estate business. So I don't see them.
It's I think there's a few here that make the attempt to turn this into the place like they left.
Yeah.
But thankfully, there's enough resistance that the way we live here in Idaho is going to last for quite some time. And that's why I chose to stay away from Washington. I could see it going in California real fast.
Yeah.
I don't care for the politics and the nanny state authoritarianism. It's not for me.
Right. I get that. People ask a lot, like, they're like, we're looking at Washington too, because right over the border in Washington, homes are cheaper. That's a fact.
For a reason.
It's attractive to some people. They're like, I could get this home, like the view and all this, and it's cool. But you won't be able to have standard capacity magazines anymore. Some people call them high capacity, but you won't be able to have standard capacity magazines, and good luck on your semi-auto rifles and other cool stuff. It's all going away in Washington. So that right there, I mean, I like to shoot, and that's a big deal for me. I'm like, I don't want to live like that. I lived like that in California.
Yeah.
Even as a cop, I couldn't have an AR-15 that wasn't neutered in California, which was insane to me. I had literally in my patrol car every day a regular AR-15 sitting right next to me that I took out many times. I guess I did use it, just didn't shoot people with it, but you know what I mean. No, at home I could not have one like that. Come on, it's stupid.
I got into competition shooting back when I was still in California, and I had multiple felonies in my gun safe. It was time to leave before somebody caught on.
You and about everybody else down there. That's super common. Do you have a military background or anything?
I don't. You know, I grew up in a small white trash town in Southern California called 29 Palms. Means out there.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
what
yeah.
it is.
Yeah, they do.
That's not a nice place. It's drink, you can do meth, or you can pack up, get the fuck out of there.
So you chose the latter?
I did. I did learn to drink with those Marines, though. God bless you guys.
Yeah, they can throw down. I've made that mistake before.
Yeah, I don't have a military background. I did volunteer at my local fire department when I was 18 years old, and they required that I become an EMT within 6 months.
Was that, see, now I'm wishing Dave was here because he was a San Bernardino County fire captain. So was that San Bernardino County?
Yeah.
You guys must have crossed paths.
Had to have.
Yeah, because he was probably he did like, I don't know, 17 or 18 years with them and moved up here in 90. So he probably started in like 2001. He was probably on that time.
I graduated paramedic school in 2000. So
yeah. So you were on the same time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
well,
it's a shame he didn't make it.
He was going to be here. And then I called him at literally the time we were starting. And he's like, oh, dude, I forgot. I hope he listens to this because we shamed him there.
Yes.
Anyway, whatever. So, okay.
A few more drinks, we can roast him.
So you grew up
in
a white trash town, learned to drink, and got the fuck out.
Absolutely.
Where'd you go?
Well, I hung around there for a while. I'm married to my high school sweetheart.
No shit.
The only normal girl in the town at the time.
Good snag. Yeah.
Was really interested in pissing off her parents by dating me. It worked. Yeah, I became an EMT and then a paramedic, and she followed me into that business, became an EMT and then a nurse. So we've got the cliche medic nurse
It's either like medic nurse, firefighter nurse, cop nurse. Like you got to keep it in that incestual family. That's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
They're the only ones that get our sense of humor. It's pretty raw.
It's pretty raw. All right, so paramedic working in SoCal.
I was running around working for AMR down in Palm Springs.
Oh, good old AMR. Yeah.
It's I liked the work. I didn't like the employer. It was a rough spot.
Yeah.
I think I could have made more money working in a hardware store, but I did love the work.
Yeah.
We got a great system to grow up in. The valley where I worked, the Coachella Valley, there was a few pockets of fire departments that had paramedics. I discovered early on that I preferred the medicine side to the firefighting side.
Yeah.
So I chased my paramedic license. Grew up in a good system where we were completely under supported. There was not enough staff. It was a huge area. You could end up, on a big car accident out in Coachella somewhere. You could end up waiting, 30, 45 minutes for the next paramedic, and you got 8 or 10 people.
You're just handling biz.
Oh yeah, it was.
The guys that like can do that job, I have so much respect for. I worked with a couple of former flight medics, like CHP flight medics, and those dudes like. There's like the textbook way to do the job, and then there's the way to actually save people's lives, and it's down and dirty. And I'm like, bro, you can stick your finger in whatever part of me you need to if you need to stop the bleeding. And like, I would trust those guys over, a straight ambulance person all day long.
It was the system you come up in definitely leaves a mark on you. And I was glad at the time. I was a little frustrated with it, but looking back, I couldn't have had a better first few years.
Yep.
Around and working that system.
Yeah. You probably worked with some chippies down there quite a bit then, huh?
Yeah, we had H60 out in Thermal at the airport there. I remember a couple of the guys. I think Craig Martinez was there. One of the medics from AMR actually left us to join CHP and became a helicopter pilot.
Hell yeah.
He was up there Northern Cali.
Those dudes, they do some pretty cool, depending on where they're at, right? I worked with a guy that he worked, and they would go into Yosemite and do rescues, of climbers and stuff, like on Half Dome, like some freaking cool stories out there of flying. And I'm like, wow, man, it's like, that's a cool ass job.
Having your own helicopter is pretty cool.
Yeah.
After a few years on the ground, I got hired on with Mercy Air, the air medical provider down there.
Same area?
Yeah. They pretty much had a monopoly in Southern California, except for LA County, which has their own massive fleet of helicopters.
Here's the big secret in California that nobody tells you. If there's a CHP helicopter and like a Life Flight helicopter or one of these other private companies circling, always ask for the CHP because it's free. It's a free ride. And I don't know if people know that, but it's important to know that. So
he's not lying.
I'm not lying. Like, damn it. Chippy, I want the CHP picking me up. Free ride.
We collaborate with those guys quite a bit because they have hoist capability.
Yeah.
And private helicopter agencies just do not. The insurance is astronomical. So I think there are 2 private services in the whole country that do
it. It's pretty cool what they can do. There's some incredible stories of like, they also like the CHP helicopters, they're following pursuits. They're doing civil disturbance, riot control stuff. They're overhead with the big lights and they do a lot of cool stuff. So I give those guys some credit. I guess some buddies that did that, and it's a freaking cool job.
San Bernardino County Sheriff was another one that used to hoist people out for us. We got to Joshua Tree National Park and get those guys stuck in the rocks up there.
Oh, yeah.
Have to land somewhere and wait for either sheriffs or chippies to come in and long line.
Yeah, dude.
I was so jealous of those guys, man.
It's cool, like, when you're working a crash, as a trooper, and, like, it's a doozy, and, like, people are hurt really bad, and then these flight medics show up, and they're, like, fucking spacemen with their gear, and you're like, man, it's a whole nother level of sexy. I'm gonna give you that, dude, because you guys step out and you're like, damn, like, all right, shit's serious. You just landed a helicopter on the freeway, and you guys, it's like, okay, cool, like, shit's good. You guys know what you're doing. Handle it. I love that.
Landing a helicopter on Southern California freeway is something, man.
It's cool.
It's like rock star status.
Oh yeah,
you get out, there's hundreds.
Everybody's looking at you like, oh my gosh.
A little kid's waving.
Yeah.
Try to blow them over with the helicopter. Far we can roll. Sorry, kids.
Oh man. You got any doozy calls? I hate to ask that question, but you know what I mean? Like, people do want to know.
Yeah, like gory stuff.
I mean, like, everybody's got that one.
One of the ones I ran with Highway Patrol, I was on the ground. Some guy ran his Jaguar in overpass support.
That doesn't end well.
And per the trucker that he blew by, he had been doing about 110. So it was intentionally hit that thing square.
Oh,
Yeah. We just happened to be a couple of miles away when the call popped. We roll up and the chippy comes over, and as we're getting out, he says, I know I'm not supposed to touch him, but he was sitting on the engine block and he was cooking.
oh, golly.
So I pulled him off. I'm like, okay, you know,
That's fair.
we run up on it, and there's not a bone in this guy's body that wasn't broke. He was absolutely squished. And I said, I'll get a sheet. And I turned around to walk back to the ambulance. And he took a breath.
Oh, boy.
Like, I cannot believe this guy is still alive. So he started cutting off all his clothes, and you know, the impact had squirted the contents of his bowels out, so he was covered in poop. And he had hit so hard that his scrotum exploded.
I've never seen that.
I hadn't either.
Yeah.
And haven't since, not from blunt impact. But yeah, it was so.
Safe to say he had a pretty severe hernia then that pushed things through that way, huh?
Wasn't going to be a problem.
Yeah. Guessing that's not survivable.
Yeah, he took a few breaths, and we were, you know, it was just timing that allowed us to see that. But,
Yes.
just that impressed me more than anything else, just how tough the human body is. And
Yeah.
even after that catastrophic impact, he stayed alive for a few minutes.
Right, long enough for you to get there.
Yeah. So
I should have prefaced this. This may be inappropriate for small children, this conversation. So if the kids are listening, I don't know, you might want to either going to learn a lot here in the next hour, or, you know, you might want to shut it off. There's that.
true. Yeah, it could get worse.
It could. And, you know, I think like I try to sum up my experience as a trooper, and I'm like, it's weird to say, but I'm thankful to have seen the things that I did, even though there was a massive amount of trauma. I heard recently, I was looking at some statistic, and it's like a normal person experiences like 2 to 4 extremely traumatic events in their lifetime. And a cop, for example, is like 400 to 600 of those traumatic events. I imagine a medic is even more, because, you know, a lot of our calls are different things, or at least comparable, but probably more. And it's, you know, time heals a lot of that, right? Like I had some things that bothered me for a long time, and still do, depending on certain smells or things will trigger me for sure. But,
Sure.
You know, I was really shocked by that. I think a lot of the public don't quite realize, you know, exactly what happens out there in the first responder world. And
You definitely realize there's a sliding scale as far as trauma goes.
yeah,
Thankfully, most people in America were so insulated from those horrible things that,
which I'm glad, right? Like,
Yeah.
not everybody's suited to handle that.
yeah, absolutely. You know, a secretary in your office, she might, you know, be upset because they treated her poorly at Starbucks, and that'll ruin her day.
Right.
That's valid. That's the worst part of her day.
Yeah.
That's the worst she can expect, and that's good.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, child abuse victims or murder victims or, you know, drunk drivers, things like that, you're going to see families destroyed and bodies destroyed. And it's like, yeah, that's a bad time. But
It'll change you. I mean, I had like a hard time. My kids were little, and I like driving really got like anytime, and especially driving on the roads that I worked on. Like, I lived in the next town over from where I worked for the most part, but like if I ever went through that town and my family was in the car, it was just like, oh yeah, I remember that crash. I remember the idiot that died right there. I remember, and it was like every freaking intersection. And I was like, you know, my heart rate's up. I'm like, I got my family in the car. I know what can happen on this stretch of road because I've seen it a dozen times, and it's like, it was bad, and that got to me. And you know, I would avoid certain roads because I'm like, oh, I've seen like 10 fatals on that road. Like, I know that's a bad road. I'm not gonna drive on it. And it's so crazy, right? Like, most people do not think like that.
and thankfully, right?
Right.
It's
People don't want to know.
no, and that's okay. They pay people like us to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard more than a couple of people say in our job, we're supposed to be the best part of someone's worst day.
Mm.
And that's a privilege if you're handling it right.
Right. Yeah. You need to be that calm in the storm, and like, they look to you for that, right? Like, okay, they're having the worst thing imaginable just happen to them, and they see you and you're just, you know, stoic, not freaking out. That can give people strength, I think, in that moment to like kind of.
Yeah. And sometimes you're having off days, and
Yes.
So I'm sure you've met those officers or those paramedics.
Oh yeah.
They're burnout and they
Yep.
feel like just showing up is enough, and it's about their interest in this.
Yeah, the compassion's gone. The yeah. Oh, I've seen it. I'm sure it's happened to me too. I know it's happened to me. I know I've been that guy before, and I always had a very strong empathy, and I think that made me good at being a cop, but also made it very hard for me because, there were moments when I'm like, man,
Yeah, it comes with a cost.
oh yeah, and when I started, mental health was not talked about, right? It was like shot, like you're shunned if you even bring shit up like that.
You're weak.
Yeah. All of my career, I went to one critical incident debrief, and that was from a shooting. And, none for the dozens of fatal car crashes, like nothing. And it's like, probably should have at least sat down with the crew and, hashed it out afterwards and shared some of those experiences. Cause I think that can go a long way in helping us out on this side of things for sure.
Absolutely. That's that K-27 memorial is focused on the emotional well-being of providers. I think that's fantastic.
It is. And we're seeing more and more of that. And I'm hoping, I would assume that, some of these, I imagine a lot of these experiences are what contribute to, suicide rates in first responders, veterans too, of course. And I think a bigger focus on that mental health aspect will help that in the future and at least temper that somewhat in some of these guys and at least give them that outlet or at least help them find healthier outlets, not alcohol and nicotine. And
it will do in a pinch.
Yeah. I had this one crash and it was like one of those instances like you talked about. I happened to be like 2 minutes away. I was in the middle of nowhere on a down tree call and it was pouring rain. It was nighttime. It was storming like crazy. And I'm with my buddy Sam. I'll get him on the podcast one of these days. We're in two different cars and we get this call of a head on like 2 minutes away. And I'm like, wow, that's random. Like we're never up here and we get this call. And just hearing the dispatcher, I'm like, it's like two bodies in the roadway. I'm like, all right. And I never did this, but I'm like, I put the gloves on while I'm driving, my latex gloves. I'm like, it's probably going to be messy. And I get there, I'm like the first on scene. There's the one driver, and then there's two bodies in the road, and they're like 15 feet apart. And I'm looking at both of them. I'm like, they're both jacked up. I'm like, how am I going to do I'm by myself. How am I going to do CPR on two people at one time? I'm like, do I drag one over the other? And I'm like, I don't know what to do here. So one guy, he was face down on the pavement and his face was looked like it was in the pavement. I'm like, well, he's probably dead, right? His face is completely flat. So I go to the other guy and I start, pretending to work on him. And it was just like, he was dead too, obviously. And thankfully right at that time, my partner showed up and then, the volunteers showed up and things started to settle down. But it was like that moment of complete helplessness. I'm like, how do I handle? And those are the things that you are not taught anywhere, right? It's like, how do you handle that by yourself, right? And it was just pouring rain the whole time. And it was basically these two kids. They were out drifting in their car, no seatbelts, and drifted sideways into the front of an F-150. Both got ejected. And you see these crazy little things that stick with you. One of the kids, I say kids, they were early, 20 years old, right? Not kids, but younger than me. He was clutching a lighter, in his hand, the death grip. And I've seen that twice now. Actually, I'll tell you the other one in a second. But it was a hell of an experience, man. And then trying to work that crash, and when I say work it from a trooper side, right? You got to measure things. There's a lot of forms to fill out, and you're trying to do all that in the pouring rain. And it was that was one of those nights where you're like, wow, this could not get any shittier, 100%. And then I'm on the scene and I turn around for a minute and the girlfriend of one of the dead guys who's pregnant walks up and is standing over his body, who we had not covered yet. I don't know where she came from. There was no other cars. She walked there. And now I have this screaming girlfriend, two dead guys. And it's just like, wow, there we go. That's the icing on top. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's a bad.
That was a doozy, man.
Yeah, the family is always the hardest part.
Hard, right?
You get those critical patients in front of you. I have a list of things I need to do.
Yeah.
I'm under time pressure and I'm task saturated usually for the first few minutes. So I don't have a lot of time to think about how I'm going to feel about this. But
right.
Family shows up at the hospital to talk to you. It's like, think I want this connection.
Yeah.
Because that's the hard one to wash off, right? Is the pain that event left those other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, dealing with family is absolutely horrible there.
And I guess you probably saw it a lot, because if you're going into somebody's house, they're there, right? Like as at a crash, it's pretty rare,
Yeah.
except maybe at the hospital. Maybe nowadays it's a lot more common because, you have apps to track where the kids are, and it'll alert you if they get in a crash. And now, like, I could see that happening a lot more now. But yeah, the first brand new trooper, the first fatal crash I went to, I had to, we get the kid to the hospital. He was like 18, and, he was dead, but he's laying on the gurney. I come outside and the dad is right there. And I didn't know shit, right? I was a brand new trooper. And, he's like, "Is my son okay?" I'm like, well, this is one of those moments.
Hate that question.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I learned quickly, you just got to cut to the chase, right? You don't beat around the bush, and you just say it. No, he's dead. And like, you can't prolong that moment, right? Because it's so heavy. And another thing I learned on crashes is, like, you don't go up to the motorcycle guy that's crashed and he's clearly broken and ask him if he's okay. I learned that the first motorcycle crash I went to, right? He's clearly not okay. So these are the lessons that you don't learn in the academy. You learn them on the street, and they're hard.
I use that as a sounding board. I always walk up and say, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
It's a stupid question because I'm there, right?
Right. You're there for a reason.
But their response can give you a gauge as to just how well they're doing.
That's okay. That's a good point from the medic side, right? If they can respond, that's good.
Or if they're confused, they don't quite get it, they're slow to respond, you start thinking about head injuries and how that's going to deteriorate on you in the next few minutes. It's a good way to kind of gauge, if they're whining about their finger. All right, then we're probably not too injured here. However, if they've got, angulated lower legs where there shouldn't be angles, and they're saying, yeah, my stomach hurts real bad. All right, well, we've got big problems, and we should probably go fast.
Yeah.
So it's, while it seems kind of dumb on the surface, it's useful asking stupid questions.
Okay. That makes me feel better about that dumb question I asked that time. I started finally asking, like, where are you hurt? That was my question that I would bring to the scene then. Oh, like, that makes more sense in my mind. Like, they're clearly hurt. Tell me where. And then I can get that response. I also learned pretty quickly there's a strategy as a trooper of not necessarily beating the ambulance to the call.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one. Or as you pull up, you see the chippy dropping flares.
Yeah.
He's 50 yards away. I'm like,
scene safety, man. Scene safety is number one.
Absolutely.
There's a reason guys are doing it like that, right?
Hey, bud, I need some hands. He's like, I can wait just a second. There, bud.
I was always drawn to the medical side too. I got certified as an EMT before I became a cop. I never worked as an EMT, but I was always interested in the medical side because I think it's fascinating, and it probably comes from Boy Scouts and learning, first aid stuff, but like when you can effectively come somewhere and literally help someone, like, that's pretty freaking rewarding. I think I probably would have been better suited as a firefighter or a medic, just from that aspect of really liking to help people when they're having a bad time like that. So I was always drawn to it. Like, if anybody needs C-spine, like, I'd jump in the back seat and do that, or CPR, whatever.
Yeah, I got a warm spot in my heart for all those guys that did that, especially the officers. It's not their primary focus, and
right.
for them to branch out and get into that zone where they're not comfortable. I was always very much appreciated, because if we're letting them do it, we really need you to do it.
Yeah, right. Like, otherwise you wouldn't trust them, those knuckleheads, with that work. And especially as a chippy, man, you're wearing $300 in uniforms that are only dry clean. So it's like, man, you get blood on that shit. I wear my uniform for, like, sorry, this is gross, a month straight until there's a stain on it. And then it's like, all right, well, I better swap this one out, right? So if you get blood on a fresh uniform or grease or anything, it's like, dang it, man.
Yeah. White suit's the same way, man. Sweaty ass in that Nomex.
Shit. I did not fully intend to have you come here and then rehash all these traumatic experiences, so I hope it's not too much. All right. I hope y'all are doing okay. Sorry, it's a lot of information out here that you may not want to know, but here we go.
Yeah, when you all you've done your entire adult life is that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, you want to talk about vacation? That's I'm sure somebody else can talk about that. I'm not that well world traveled. I've spent a lot of time in shitholes.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as that's my entire life. My daughter she grew up with death being a dinner table subject and traumatic events and the awful things that people do to each other. It's some of my best friends are cops and firemen, of course, medics and nurses. So it just becomes commonplace, and you have to kind of be aware where you're having those discussions.
Absolutely need to know your audience. I learned that one at I had a Thanksgiving East Coast. My aunt was there. I was like 3 or 4 years on the job, so I'd seen enough. And I remember my aunt was like, "Hey, tell me some cool work stories." And I'm like, "All right."
You sure?
Literally like 3 minutes later, I look up and she's crying, and I'm like, "Okay, wrong audience, right? Let me tell you some funny stories."
I got some dad jokes.
Yeah. So, often people don't really want to hear, they ask, but it's like they don't really know what they're going to get. And it's more than most people can imagine.
They think they want to know.
Yeah.
But
yeah. You ever what's like your weirdest one? You got a weird one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I was working on the ground in Desert Hot Springs. And there's a guy on the front pew in a church. There's a woman doing CPR on him. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And as we run up and we start doing our thing and going down the list and working on the guy. And he's got like some weird apparel covering him from the waist down. Like, is this a kilt? Like, what's this guy wearing? But I'm kind of busy, so I'm not putting it together real quick.
Yeah.
And after we get him off the pew and onto the ground, we start, we put an airway in, we start giving him drugs and got ongoing CPR. And this woman's kind of running around doing what you would expect her to do in the presence of her husband just dying. And turns out that was not a kilt. It was a curtain, and he wasn't wearing anything from the waist down.
Oh.
Yeah. There was a little...
What's happening here?
There was a little extracurricular activity going on in the church.
Oh, so this was not during a regular church service is what I'm gathering. Okay.
It was during the day in the middle of the week, so just the two of them were in there.
Interesting.
Like, all right. Pastor and his old lady are getting a little recreation in the church. I'm like, that's unorthodox. Okay.
A bit.
Yeah.
A bit.
So we scoop him up, this half naked gentleman, and we run him down to Desert Hospital, Desert Regional, the local trauma center, and hand him over. And he does not make it. He ends up being pronounced in the ER. And the doctor says, "Hey, the wife wants to talk to you." Okay, I'm familiar with her. I go out into the lobby, and I'm looking for the wife, and some other woman steps up to me. She's like, "I was hoping you had my husband's wallet." I'm like, "Well, who are you?" She's like, "Well,
oh."
She's like, I'm his wife." I'm like, "Huh." She's like, "So do you have his wallet and his car keys?" I'm like, "He didn't have any pants on."
Oh boy.
Yeah. She gives me this look. She's like, "Uh-huh."
Like she wasn't fully surprised where I'm getting.
Not particularly. She like stone faces me and she's like, "Thank you." "Yes, ma'am. I'm out of here. It's the most uncomfortable thing."
Dang.
Dude not only died, but he got caught.
In the Lord's house, nonetheless. Right? Oh, buddy.
Huh.
You have to repent for that one. Multiple angles, buddy. Wow.
That was one of the most awkward times.
That's pretty awkward.
Yeah. You are not who I thought.
I think one of my weirdest medical situations, I was eating breakfast at this place called the Cornucopia in Oroville, California. It's a dump. Only had food poisoning like 5 times there, which is impressive out of the hundreds of times I've eaten there. And the call comes out, and we're with the sheriff's department. They get this call, or the PD, whatever. And some kind of fight. There's a guy down. So we get over there, and this guy had been shot and stabbed. I'm not sure, but he was jacked up and like dying. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do some CPR here, right? Here we go. Get the skills out. And I noticed that he has a stoma. I'm like, oh, how do we handle this one? How do you get... I didn't have any particular training in that skill set. So I'm like, all right, glove up. Stick my finger in the hole. Right? That makes sense?
Yep.
Did I do the right thing?
Short of putting your mouth on the stoma.
Yeah, so that was just gooey and nasty looking. So I'm like, all right, I think that So I stuck my finger in that hole, and then we carried on with pretending to do CPR on this guy. He was dying and dead anyway, but that was a cool one for me. I'd never seen that before. That's something they don't get taught.
What was that? Right around 2000-ish, early aughts? By the time you were doing that?
That would have been like, that would have been like 2010, 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they recently, they changed up CPR so you don't have to put your mouth on anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Does it work as good? Like, honestly.
Absolutely.
It does.
Okay. It works very well. And obviously you want more air exchange going on if you're a provider and you have the means. But what they found was weren't initiating anything because they didn't want to do a half-assed job. So they still would engage at all.
So at least this level is a lot easier for people to handle than.
Yeah. And because of the recoil of your bellows system, your rib cage, it still draws air in and still get some exchange there. It's not optimal, but it's better than putting your mouth.
I didn't know if that was BS. I'm glad to hear that that's not entirely BS. So
you're still getting some exchange there.
So if you get that undesirable person that you're like, I ain't putting anything on that. If it's a family member or something, obviously, like, sure, go for it. Or if you have a mask, right? I usually have one in my truck now, but there were moments when I did not.
Yeah, like every full arrest return of circulation I've ever had CPR prior to my arrival.
Yeah,
because the professionals are always 6 to 10 minutes away a minute.
Yeah,
and without somebody else thumping on them, you're odds of getting them back pretty low. So unless you witness it on the job as a provider, or someone else has done CPR prior to, the odds of getting them back are almost
none. On people that weren't obviously dead. So I'd obviously, like, if you show up on a crash and this person is obviously dead, you still want to have the appearance of trying to do something, right? So I've done like half that. That's why I say, like, I attempted CPR, right? Like, I pretended to do CPR. Like, you got to have the image of trying. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I'm not a cop anymore, so I can say this. But there have been multiple times where I'm like, the guy's in a car seat, and I'm just like, it's not effective, right? But he's dead. The times that I was like, maybe like 4 times, no save. So I'm 0 for 4 on CPR. So if you crap out right here, your chances are pretty slim that I'm going to be able to save you just for the record.
Don't feel bad. I've had a good run.
Okay. But it does work.
Absolutely.
You know it, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. I needed to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And those little things are incredibly important. And like you mentioned earlier, that that training is really not passed out to the people that truly need it. Officers in particular, like, you see everybody, they carry their little IFAC, and tourniquets are my favorite. Everybody's got 2 tourniquets, and
I've got one right here.
It's like there's a trick to putting on a tourniquet.
Yeah.
There's some assumptions about them that a lot of people. I like picking on tourniquets just because, like, as a professional in the U.S., I've needed a tourniquet like maybe 10 times in my entire career.
That's impressive. I would have thought more. Yeah. I never used one. I've always carried one. Well, since they became kind of a thing, not first couple of years, I never carried one, but after I went to enough, like, trauma, officer down classes, I was like, oh yeah.
Early in my career, the tourniquets were the devil. You had there was all kinds of myths out there about them. They're going to lose a limb. You got to loosen it up every 15 minutes. And none of that shit's true.
Yeah.
But the GWAT fixed that issue with a lot of things. The global war on terror and the types of injuries that we were seeing over there. That became real clear through a couple of different studies that this is incredibly important. It must be managed immediately. Like in old school trauma management, it's the ABCs, airway, breathing, circulation. Now it's like TCCC is marches. It's massive hemorrhage. Mm-hmm. Must be controlled first, then airway, then respiration.
So is it like CAB now or something? Is that a circulation, airway, breathing, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, I get that right.
On the tactical side, they call it march. The guys carrying weapons and providing care in that environment.
Yeah.
And there's a different format to it. It's been proven, over tens of thousands of casualties and thousands of deaths. That this is now the better way. Had the internet to compile all that data, and so many things have changed in my career over the years that, like, my early days, I have no idea how many people I killed doing what I was taught to do.
Oh, yeah.
Flooding people with normal saline when they had a traumatic incident. 2 large bore IVs wide open. Yeah, we're washing out all their clotting factors.
Oh.
Making it harder for them to survive.
That's wild.
Back early in the day, it was, hyperventilate head injuries. You pump a whole lot of air in there, and, the oxygen's great, but what you're doing is you're removing a CO2, which causes like a cerebral vasoconstriction. So
No
now you're
shit.
strangling a brain that's already fighting to survive.
That's wild.
They were doing this as a matter of course. I have no idea how many people have killed with that.
And but you attribute that knowledge really just came out of the war.
Yeah, the changes and all that.
Because of the trauma they were seeing over there.
Yeah, that contributed incredibly. And then, I'm old, and this will show here, but like the use of the internet and compiling data and moving to like an evidence-based medicine, changed a lot of things. So I got to see some big turns in my career of how we handle those things.
That's wild. Interesting. Yeah, tourniquets are freaking awesome, man. I worked with this guy. He was, 25 years on by the time I was working with him, so he'd been around. And he told me the story of, because carrying tourniquets on our department was like fairly new. I mean, like after 2010, 2012, maybe people actually started carrying them. Not everybody carried them, but he told me the story of it. He had a UPS driver one time hit something and it sheared his leg off against the front of the truck. And he showed up on scene. The dude was bleeding out and he didn't have anything. So he used the dog snare. We had dog snares in our trunks. And he was able to make a tourniquet out of that. And I was like, holy shit, saved the dude's life.
Nice thinking.
Like, that's freaking cool, man. Yeah, that's damn good thinking, right? I'm like,
MacGyver medicine.
That's freaking smart. And then I went to a train versus ped call one time. And the PD, like this like podunk PD right near where I work, they showed up first. We get there 20 minutes later. And this dude had, I don't know exactly how this happened. I think he was taking a crap on the tracks, honestly, and he was hammered, and it severed both of his legs, like right below the knees or right above the knees, somewhere in there. Clean severed. And he's dead by the time I get there. I'm like, why did you guys he was alive when they got there. Like, why didn't you put a tourniquet on him? And they're like, oh, like, we didn't have any or whatever. I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, if I had gotten here, I had him, my partner had him. I'm like, could have saved this freaking dude's life, man. It pissed me off.
Yeah.
I freaking chewed him out. I was like, that's bullshit.
You guys failed.
They failed.
Sorry, fellas.
Yeah. Yeah. That one bugged me. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
To see somebody die that is easily savable, right? That's not cool.
Yeah. When you should have the tools and the know-how to prevent it, that's frustrating. But from their side, maybe that's not where their focus was. Hopefully it was after that.
I hope so.
I struck a chord with.
I'm sure that me and my partner lighting them up maybe helped down the road and they start carrying them. But
yeah,
man. All right. So when did you come here? I should relate this to. There is a North Idaho tie, people. Don't worry. We're getting there. Everybody's like, what are we talking about? This is so traumatic.
So going back to the K-27 thing. My second visit up here, I attended the Frontier EMS conference at the resort. And while I was here that weekend, they had the service for that sergeant that was killed. And they shut down the entire conference. They wheeled TVs into every room. The news was showing like all the overpasses through the city were covered with people waving flags, and they showed his funeral procession going through town. And the way the entire community handled it, I decided like I have to live here.
That's the place, right?
Yeah. It was like the level of community support was unheard of. Like in Southern California, it's there's a lot of mixed feelings about law enforcement, public service in general, how that works. But the way the community handled it here, I'm like, this is a fantastic community. I want to be among these people. Yeah,
I tell people that a lot. Like, especially we get, either retired first responders that are looking to move here or guys that want to lateral and work up here because they want to actually be able to be a cop again. I'm like, you don't understand. This community freaking backs them like nothing I've ever seen. And it's nice to hear somebody else say that too.
Yeah, pretty incredible. That was a huge draw for me to come up here. And obviously it's a beautiful place to live. There's every day I wake up and I'm here. This is fantastic. Growing up in one desert or another most of my life,
it's a different landscape.
Very much.
From that.
Yeah.
So what do you do now?
Currently I work for Lifeline Network, the emergency helicopter company.
Okay.
I manage a couple of bases, Coeur d'Alene and Sandpoint. Fantastic crew. Great people up here. This is probably my favorite job I've had. I've worked for for-profit flight companies. I've worked for the government, and Lifelight's a not-for-profit. Mm-hmm. So they invest everything back into doing a better job.
That's cool.
So we get fantastic equipment. They take good care of their people. It's like our crew's well-beings are foremost all the time. It's I'm pretty happy with that.
All right, so you're not on the plane or the helicopter anymore. You're managing now, or
So I do fly probably once or twice every 2 weeks.
yeah, as a medic.
Yeah, not sure I want to give that up. But I still get to fly with my crews and get my hands dirty. Nobody grows up dreaming of being a manager. If you do, I don't want to drink with you. But yeah, like still getting in there and doing it. I still very much enjoy that.
What's the difference in doing the same job up here as opposed to where you're at? Call volume, things like that, different?
They're pretty busy up here, but one of the biggest thing I would say is the scope of practice. Like California manages your scope as far as like which skills you can apply, which drugs you can administer, high risk, invasive, low frequency, surgical airways, chest tubes, things of that nature. That's very restricted depending on which county you're flying out of in California. And California overall is pretty low on the list as far as advanced scope of practice. Sure, if your buddy was here, he would share my frustration in that there's not a lot of trust in the EMS providers down there, whereas up here it's a very, very liberal scope, probably the most advanced I've ever worked in, barring my overseas time, where there were very, very few rules.
Dude, I talked to a medic, that was a year or two ago, up here. He's not a flight medic, but and he was saying that same thing. He's like, hey, we're like way out. You know, you're an hour away from something. You have to be able to work at higher scope. And he said it's cool. Like they let them push meds that they wouldn't normally be able to push and do a lot of things like that. And it's like, that kind of comes with the territory, right? Like if they don't allow that, people are going to die. You got to give them a little bit more leeway and let these guys do that job because they can clearly do it.
Sure. And I understand some of the reasoning for it, even though I don't agree with it. They're hoping to not cause any harm by inexperienced or unpracticed providers applying these skills. You can absolutely harm somebody if you wrongly apply a treatment.
Yeah.
So I can see where there's definitely some nerves about it. But the answer to that is training, and that costs money, it costs time, and you have to have a motivated workforce to engage in that. So there's some obstacles to getting there, but California never really seemed interested in getting past those obstacles. As I was leaving late 2010, early 2011, they kept taking more skills. It was, the LA County, for example, has never been able to intubate pediatric patients, which is an insertion of an invasive airway into your trachea, a little breathing tube.
That seems pretty important.
It is, but there's also some risks. So if you're not paying attention, you can suffocate the kid because it's likely that tube could slip out with a little bit of movement. And they were losing so many kids, they pulled that skill, and then eventually they started pulling it for adults, and they started restricting more skills that weren't being applied correctly, and they were doing harm. And that was frustrating. I think most of that was driven by unions protecting the incompetent. Mm-hmm. Not a big union fan. I think with modern labor laws, they're pretty outdated.
Yeah,
and they can become an obstruction rather than a help. So it was a lot of those cases where they were, rather than fix the issue, they would just pull the skill for everybody. And that's when you're looking to do more and know more and have more tools in the toolbox. That's a frustrating thing.
That's extremely frustrating.
So up here, that's not much of an issue. Idaho has got a great scope of practice. They have a lot of trust in their pre-hospital providers, and that's always appreciated to have somebody put their faith in you.
How do you feel about the skill level of the medics up here compared to?
The skill level is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the guys I've worked with, they're fantastic. More than that, like the difference in ego. You're dealing with different agencies and departments all over Southern California. It's very difficult depending on that department's culture.
Yep.
And up here, getting it done and doing the best thing for the patient seems to be everyone's goal. So that in and of itself makes everything so much easier. So I'm not worried about his personality. We're just worried about, okay, we need this done in this amount of time.
Hell yeah.
So that was one of the biggest things I noticed when I first got up here before the changes in scope of practice really took hold in my perception. It was just how easy it was to work with everyone.
Yeah.
That's incredibly valuable.
Are you guys, is there anybody else doing flight care up here? Or are you guys pretty much it? Like, do any of the government agencies do it?
Well, there's an aircraft out of Montana called Two Bear Air. It's funded solely by one philanthropist.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's freaking cool.
He's got a fat checkbook. Like they're flying a $9 million aircraft. They do hoist. He funds everything out of his personal bank account, and they do very limited medical care, but they do rescue, which is very hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
It's like the long line hoist. And they no charge.
Will they come to Idaho too?
Absolutely.
Holy shit.
Our crews work with them pretty frequently.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah. So I don't know the guy's name. I've heard about him quite a bit. Never met him. Hope to someday because, I mean, that's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, not just.
Right. I mean, you think
not
about
just
fuel
the
and
helicopter, but the maintenance costs are.
oh, yeah.
You're looking at, without fuel and without crew, that aircraft, I think, is somewhere between like $1,400 and $1,600 an hour to operate just in maintenance.
Holy crap.
So it's they say to make a small fortune in aviation, you got to start with a large one. And that guy is definitely not afraid to put his money where his heart is. So
wow.
God bless that guy.
How many aircraft do you guys have?
Oh, it's about here. Somewhere in the mid 40s, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your full area that you cover?
Most of Oregon, Washington,
okay,
all of Idaho,
gotcha.
And western Montana.
Oh, okay. So that's a pretty big area.
32 bases at this point. And
all helicopters?
No, we have, I think, 12 fixed wing now.
Is that just for like transport from here to there?
Yeah, we do a lot of interfacility flights.
Okay.
And some of those distances are prohibitive for a helicopter. Not to mention the flight rules for flying in certain visibility or weather. Helicopters just can't do it the same way that a fixed wing can.
Yeah.
And out here, we don't have IFR helicopters, instrument flight rules. I suppose we could, but the freezing levels out here make it difficult to maneuver in most of that weather anyway. So we tend to use the fixed wings when we can't fly due to low weather in the rotor wing aircraft. So in the wintertime, the fixed wings are incredibly busy.
What so they fly out of Coeur d'Alene and Sandpoint? Both the airports there?
And Pullman, Lewiston, Spokane, Moses Lake, Brewster.
Oh, okay.
Missoula, Butte.
Oh, dang.
They're all over the place.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Shoot, that's a lot.
We do have a competitor over in Washington, Airlift Northwest. They're based out of University of Washington. They're pretty much, I think they're like an 8 or 10 aircraft program. I don't know a whole lot about them.
Okay.
I'm usually focused.
Yeah.
Crews and problems. So they are around. I met a few of their crews. Nice people.
Are the calls up here different than say like San Bernardino where you came? Like, is it crashes in the middle of nowhere? Is it like what kind of stuff you dealing with?
Yeah, there's, depending on your base and I could use the word culture for that. Some bases do a whole lot of interfacilities, like the smaller standalone, the freestanding facilities that are looking for more definitive care. Like, for example, Shoshone is a very small hospital out in Kellogg. So when they need something like open heart surgery, they need stroke care, then they're going to fly them to Kootenai or Sacred Heart where they get that care. And a lot of that is where we step in.
We had, when I started working as a trooper in California, I started over in Humboldt County and it was like pretty remote. There was this hospital in this town called Redway. That was the name of the town. I can't remember the name of the hospital. Damn. Anyway, it was podunk. And like, you go there, you're going to die pretty much. And we had a deal in the office. Like, hey, if I get shot or anything, like, do not fucking take me to the hospital. You get me in the car and you drive code 3 north to Eureka. That's the best bet we got. Or you call the damn CHP helicopter or whoever, and you pick me up and you fly me somewhere else. Like, that was the deal. That was widely recognized. So that I'm not throwing any hospitals down up here, but I understand like some small town hospitals just are not equipped for that.
Absolutely.
That major
they
trauma.
just can't afford it.
Right.
It's, capability takes money and lots of it.
Yeah.
And tiny communities just can't support that.
No. And like, you're not getting the best of the best, right? I'll speak on the hospital I know. And like the doctors there were just horrible. Like old, not that old doctors are wrong, but like old, and I can say this because I don't work in this business, old, incompetent. And it's just like, wow, no way. It may be the same here. You don't need to speak on that because you work here. I'll just assume whatever I'm going to assume and go from there.
God bless them for the effort they put in.
I'll take a finger. Thank you. Perfect. Stuff's good, man.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I try to tell people all the time, like, it's so much different up here. I would love to be a cop here. My wife wouldn't love me to be a cop anywhere anymore, but I would love it. I think it's just the community is so much different. I imagine it's for like all first responders. It's kind of the same vibe. I've never seen anywhere like it.
Across the way, I got a couple buddies who work for Spokane sheriffs, and they're a little frustrated with the system that they have to work under. And the politics over there is not support enforcement. So
no, the pay's better. That's what draws people. We get guys that move here and then work over the border in Washington. That's pretty common as a cop. And it's like, you got to wait it out, right? Like, yeah, you'll get paid better, but you don't get to do the job at all. Like, you can't really take people to jail. You can't chase people. It's like, yeah, is that worth it? I don't know. Maybe it's worth it to you. Like, you got to pay the bills too, right?
Yeah.
But that's a morale killer, 100%.
Absolutely. And I know they're having a hard time hanging on to guys on that side of the state line.
Yeah.
I can absolutely see it. It makes me relieved that I chose not to become law enforcement.
Yeah. As the pay increases over here, and it's slowly increasing. As it increases over here, I think it'll be a no-brainer for guys. Like, I'd rather work in Idaho, work for CUNY County Sheriff or Coeur PD or Post Falls or Rathdrum or any of them. And, like, you get to do the job. We just had Shoshone County SO captain Seth Green on recently, and like, stud. That dude's cool. And just hearing, and that's a small department, right? They're over there. But like, dude, they're dealing with they're cleaning that place up. And I'm impressed. Like, they're pulling guns, they're pulling dope, like a lot. And I always tell people it is very safe up here. Like, when you hear me say that, it sounds like, oh man, it's bad. But this community is extremely safe. And to know that there are cops that can be proactive and like to be proactive, I mean, it's just better and better, right? Like, down the road, they're prolonging the safety of this community as the world falls apart and, stupid policies happen in the states surrounding us. Like, we're like this little bubble of freaking freedom here, and I freaking love it.
Yeah, this isn't going to be broadcast to California, is it? Stay out, people. It's terrible here.
That's the common feedback. I actually get a lot of crap on YouTube because, I make videos about this place and I say how awesome it is. But what my response to the nasty comments that I get, don't read them, by the way, they're traumatic. I ignore a lot of them. It's like, hey, like, yeah, we do attract people, but we attract the right people. I am like personally invested in building the strongest community possible because I just feel like, I'm not saying the world's going to completely fall apart, but it's not getting any better out there. And I feel like the stronger we can make this community in any number of ways, right? Physically stronger, politically stronger, all of that, the better for us. And this is the place I want to raise my family. So that's kind of my goal. That's my pushback on that, is like, hey, at the same time, it's not about coming up here and having all the guns and all the ammo. Like, that doesn't do shit if you can't maintain the politics of this place, right? That's the important thing.
Yeah, group mindset's incredibly important.
100%.
You're not doing anything on your own.
Right. And I heard, like, recently, the voter turnout up here is actually rather dismal. It's like 10 to 15% of people actually go out and vote. And I think the problem is, people move here or they've lived here a long time. And they're like, oh, this is great. And then I can just breathe a sigh of relief and just not do anything, right?
Not engage.
That's a freaking problem, because there are bad actors everywhere out there right now, here in this community as well, trying to change it. And if we don't unite and do the right thing, then it's going to slide.
Yeah, paying attention to that's incredibly important.
It is.
Fortunately, I just missed our last election day. I was in Tennessee picking up helicopters.
Okay, well, that's a good reason. I'll give you a pass on that.
My job kind of dictated that one.
Yeah, but if you're in town and you were like too lazy to vote or didn't pay attention and missed the vote, shame on you. You need to get out. And we've got I think November, there will be another election. So make sure you get out there and pay attention to who's running, because they may be Republican, but they might not be thinking the same way you want them to think.
Yeah, that's apparently a big problem.
It is.
I had a couple of gentlemen show up at I run the monthly shooting match out at Fernand Rod Gun Club.
I did not know that.
It's the used to be USPSA, but now it's a similar format. We call it something different. So it's action pistol, run and gun sort of shit.
I've been wanting to come do that.
I know a guy.
Apparently I found the right guy. That's cool.
During my last shooters meeting, they asked me for a couple of minutes to speak to the group. At the beginning of the shoe, we always have a safety brief and run over the format, how things are going to go. And we've been getting quite a few new shooters in lately, so it can be a little lengthy by my standards, 7 or 8 minutes, which I don't really like because we all want to shoot. But, they came out and they had a list that they had put together of folks that did vote, along how they advertise and as far as their local political positions. And they had pointed out that there were some organizations that were not what they represented themselves to be.
Yeah.
It's because they know voters are lazy, man. It's got to make them feel good about what they're doing. They don't have to know what they're doing.
They don't.
They feel good about it.
And it's name recognition. They're like, you get there, and I've been there, like you get this ballot sheet and you don't know everything about everybody. And you see his name, you're like, I recognize that name. There we go. That's the one. I've done it. And it is, right? Because you don't really know what they're about. And the information's out there. It's not that hard to find. So find it and make sure you vote because, we want to preserve the way of life that we have here. But if we don't actively do it, it's going to change.
Yeah, we'll be California Junior in 10 years.
Right. Or I don't even know. Worse, I don't know. So yeah, that's a big deal in my world right now. And the Second Amendment rights stuff, like I got a buddy that owns a gun shop in Post Falls, North Idaho Arms, and Brian Zielinski, and he's like, he came from Washington, ran a big gun shop over there, and he's like, he knows how it happened in Washington, and he's actively trying to prevent that from happening here, right? He's like currently trying to get legislation to pass a law to make it illegal for Idaho to use commerce law against the Second Amendment rights, because that's how it happened in Washington. They made it illegal to import some other words there I can't remember, and that's how they got the standard capacity magazines to be banned from import and make it really hard to get them over there. And that's a freaking problem. Like that would really piss me off.
Yeah, they're very interested in letting those individuals go that actually commit crimes, but simply having an item that might be used in a crime is far more serious offense in some people's minds. I'm not quite sure I follow that logic.
I can't follow the logic. It does not make sense to me, but that's how it happens. And so we need to make sure as conservatives that we're teaming up and figuring out ways to keep that from happening. Because if everybody's complacent, it's going to die.
And it goes a long way towards keeping society polite, man. An armed society is a polite society.
That is very true.
It's, there's a reason we don't have a lot of property crime here, is because everybody I know is carrying a gun.
Right.
You don't really want to take that risk if you're looking for easy pickings. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, we had that. Was that last year or the year before? At Target right here in Coeur d'Alene. And I got a little bit of the insider info from somebody from the sheriff's department, somebody very high up, and basically this older gentleman in his 70s had been at the pawn shop and had bought some gold and silver and had this in his car. This dirtbag from Washington followed him to Target and was trying to burglarize his car because he knew that precious metals were in there. The gentleman stepped in front of his car, drew his pistol, and the guy tried to run him over, and he shot him through the front windshield, killed him, and good shoot. Like, sheriff's department has back 100%. Fuck around and find out, right? Is that the term I believe that we would use here? Yeah.
Yeah, that's legit, man. Good for him for being prepared.
It is, right? As a cop, I saw that at first, and I was like, because we had strict policy, like do not step in front of a vehicle because then you're forcing a deadly shoot, basically. So that my initial thought was like, oh, that guy's gonna be in trouble, right? He shouldn't have done that. But this guy at the sheriff's department was like, no, that's a good shoot here. Like, stand your ground. Okay, there you go. And hopefully, other people in Washington and other places and here took note. Like, yep, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Solid call.
Good chance.
Yeah, they're not criminals because they're overachievers. Make it difficult for them.
Right. Good chance you do something stupid here, you're gonna get shot.
And there's a lot of great people in Washington, too. We just got to keep
100%
the hell out of the left lane, Idaho. If you're listening, I'm talking to you.
That's hilarious that you said that. That was one of my big pet peeves as a trooper. And like, I would routinely do the whole, they're in the slow lane or the fast lane. I get behind them, hit them with the code 3s, and take them all the way to the shoulder until they stop, and then I just take off. Like, please don't do that.
So frustrating.
So frustrating.
And they do take the speed limits very seriously up here.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I know you chippies. You're like, less than 20 over.
Oh yeah, no, I had that attitude here. Don't play around. I got pulled over 3 weeks ago by a fine Kootenai County Sheriff deputy, and yeah, it turned out fine. He's a nice gentleman, but I learned a lesson. I was like, okay, the same rules do not apply here.
Gotta pay attention.
And I was 9 over, and I'm like, oh, that's fine in California. 15 over, right? I'd never stop anybody for less than 15 over back there.
Yeah,
but,
run over doing 9 over. Everybody's
100%. I now set my cruise control on that particular road for 3 over because I just have to.
I hear you.
I can't physically drive the speed limit. Some of these roads. It's a 35. It's a 35. It's like nobody drives 35. I can't do it.
I'll do it in a school zone.
Yeah. Oh, 100% for sure. But I can do 38. That my mind can handle, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, and you know, I had a buddy, former Chippy, lives up here too, and he got stopped by a ISP on the freeway. He was doing like 15 over. You know, once again, California would be fine. I mean, he got a ticket, which was good because he drives too fast, in my opinion. So he had it coming.
Yeah, I might have had 1 or 2 tickets.
Did you? Yeah.
I wish I could say I didn't deserve it, but I did.
So that's a valuable lesson. If you're moving here, pay attention to the speed limit.
Yeah, and move to the right.
And here's one that got me. The sheriff's department up here has radar in their car. California, at least everywhere I ever worked, none of the sheriffs had radar.
Really?
Yes. So I come up here, I'm like, I don't have radar. They do. Yeah, learn that one quick.
Yeah, I think my first month here, I got pulled over for 6 over.
6?
You are serious.
Damn.
I was on government going through Hayden.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sheriff?
Very nice.
Yeah, sheriff, yeah.
Sheriff. Yeah, very nice, very polite. He scolded me without being a dick about it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And, all right, it's a new set of rules.
That's hard for me, man. It's hard for me to be like, when they tell me like, you know, that's not safe. I'm like, actually, bro, I could do 90 on this road, and I think I could be pretty safe. I don't say that, right? That would not work out well, but
they know they're lying about it.
They do. I just like, just smile when you say it, at least, right?
They do got to uphold the standard.
100%. If you let that standard go, right, then you end up in a place where people are doing 20 over routinely, and that's not good.
A little bit of mission creep there. Got to hold the line somewhere. Apparently it's 6 up here.
So be warned. Be warned if you're moving here. Don't speed.
Where were we? Traffic tickets.
we got off the rails a little bit. This bourbon's great, by the way.
Hey, thanks, man. Yeah, I suggest the 6 year. It's easier to get, and it's just as good.
Bourbon Tucker. I've never even heard of that. I'm not like the super bourbon connoisseur though. I was drinking. What were we drinking? We were drinking Bullet on here. That's like my go-to. It's like the Coors Light of bourbon world. It's easy to drink, and yeah, it is. You get the big bottles for reasonable price. And I got a buddy that's a former U.S. Marshal, retired, and he texted me. He's like, "What are you drinking, dude?" I was like, "Well," I shot back. I was like, "Well, I'm taking donations for the podcast." And he's like, "Come by my house." I was like, "It's on the porch." I was like, "All right." And he dropped off that bottle of Trail's End back there, and that's pretty damn good. I was impressed.
Yeah, I've not tried this stuff.
It was good. It's got some heat to it.
Nice.
I noticed. This one, the Bib and Tucker is a little bit smoother, but yeah, I was so there we go. And then we got that bottle of Pendleton back there that has not been cracked yet. So Eric Boardman, my partner, dropped that off. And I can't remember. We have some. He's like, that's saved for a special occasion. I was like, okay, we'll wait, see what that is, but that one's a good bottle right there. So if you're out there and you're looking to donate some bourbon, shoot me a message. I'll tell you where to send it. And thank you.
Cigars too.
Cigars too.
And ammunition. He needs ammunition.
Yeah, I need so much ammunition. I'm actually a member of Fernan Gun Club. If you see it if you see the word, you would think it's pronounced Fernan or some other way, but it's Fernan. And there's a lake right next to Coeur d'Alene, Fernan Lake, and it's on the far side of that lake. It's a great freaking range.
It's a beautiful facility.
It is. I was very impressed. So it's gated, multiple bays. So you don't get any knuckleheads in there drinking or anything stupid. Like everybody's good. That's a great spot.
Yeah, they got flush toilets, classrooms.
Yeah.
It's just in the few years that I've been there. It's the improvements they've done are fantastic. It's paid parking lot.
Yeah.
Just not freezing your ass off in the porta potty in the winter. It's fantastic.
It is.
They do 3-gun matches out there. I do my pistol matches.
I need to come out for that.
There's
I haven't done that in a long time.
There's a precision rifle shoot with 22s. I'm sorry, Wyatt, I'm forgetting the name of your organization, but they basically do precision rifles with highly modified 22 bolt action.
That's fun and cheap.
Yeah, and they're shooting out to 400.
Holy crap! The 22.
Yeah,
dude,
you guys are serious about their game.
Wow. So I'm good for like 25 yards with my 22 all day long. All day long.
Go for shots.
I've am a member of Fernand, but I've been once this year. I just bought 5 acres outside of town, so it's like I can shoot there. I got some steel set up, and it's like it's pretty damn convenient to be able to walk out of my front door in 20 feet and I can shoot.
Yeah,
so it's hard for me to get over there.
Yeah, I got that going in my yard too, but organization and all the organized trainings that we do and the matches we hold.
They do a lot of good training there.
It's all down there.
Yeah, I would love to come do some like pistol, like because I did a ton of that I was a range officer for my office as a chippy, and it was like I shot all the time, like I don't know, 4 or 5 times a month, as much as I wanted to shoot. I got bored shooting. I was shooting so much.
Free ammo isn't amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah, and good ammo too. But yeah, I haven't done like any kind of run and gun. That's fun.
The third Saturday of the month, man, come out.
It's that like that, huh? Yeah. What is it? Pistol, rifle, shotgun, or just pistol, rifle?
That's 3-gun. That's the first Saturday of the month.
Okay.
So that one's coming up. I'll be out of town, but if you want to go to that one, then I'll hook you up with the guys that are running it.
I'll wait till you're there. I need to know somebody.
Third Saturday is pistol only, and that's probably an easier thing to jump into because you kind of get the format of 3-gun, but it's a lot less complicated as far as your gear and your game plan and how you need to address it all.
Is there any is it pretty low key as far like I just need a holster and a pistol and
mags? Some mag pouches.
Okay.
Pioneer Pro and good safety habits, you're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah. It's if you show up this month and you squad with me and I'll show you how to address things and kind of how we're doing that. And I mean, we've so many new shooters in the last couple of years. My matches went from 27, 28 people every month to now we're pushing 75 every month.
Damn.
A lot of new faces all the time. Then the core diehard guys that shoot every chance they get and travel all around and hit the big and small competitions. It's addicting. It'll take all your time and money.
That's time. That's
worth everything.
That's my challenge. Time. If I put it in the calendar, I will honor it. That's my go-to.
I'll shoot you the date.
Yeah, and I'll honor it.
Cool.
I would like that because it's like it steps me out of my comfort zone. I haven't done it in a long time. It's just the act of getting there, and then it's like, all right, I'm good. Like I can do that. Yeah. See how rusty I am.
It's difficult getting certain demographics to come out. Cops don't like to shoot with us.
There's an ego element there. I've noticed that too. As a former range guy, you'd be shocked how many cops out there are not the best shooters.
Yeah.
They do the bare minimum, which always surprised me because that's like the low probability, high risk skill that you need to be really freaking good at.
Yeah.
Because doesn't happen very often, but when it does, there's a lot on the line, including your own life, liability, all of that. That and like fighting. I've been in jiu-jitsu a long time, and it's like getting cops to train in jiu-jitsu is so freaking hard. And I think it's an ego element for sure. And jiu-jitsu is a hard sport to get into. It's like, it's uncomfortable. Probably get hurt at some point. People are going to sweat in your mouth and your eyes, and that's gross. But it's really probably more important than even being a good shooter because you're more likely to be in a physical confrontation. But trying to get guys to go do that, it's impossible.
That's fantastic for your mental well-being. You get a physical vent and learn some humility along the way. I've been tied up by one little tiny guy.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu has like been a game changer in my life as far as mental health too. Holy crap. Huge.
Yes, I do miss it. Starting to get old. I creak when I get up.
Yeah, me too.
Language is dad noises.
Yeah. I'm thankfully at the level now where I can usually have most controlled, and I know my training partners real well, so the probability of getting hurt is a lot lower than it was, but still, occasionally. Yeah, last week I was rolling with a 265-pound pure muscle, dude, the tank, and I saw this moment, and I was like, I think I can shoot a double on him. So I shot in to shoot a double, and then my face ran into a brick wall, and bent my neck back, and then he like thankfully slowly sprawled on me and bent my neck pretty much like it felt like my back of my head touched my back, and I literally heard the tearing in my trap, like there's a ripping sound, and I was like, oh my god, I think I just paralyzed myself. And I got up and I was like, okay, I'm okay. But it's now a week later, and I'm dealing with headaches every day that are slowly getting better as the muscles kind of calm down in my neck. And you know, pretty rare. That wasn't a great sales pitch for jiu-jitsu. I understand that. Pretty rare. And I blame myself. I should not have done that. I should have known better. It wasn't his fault.
And he didn't torque you?
No, he's really chill white belt.
Him.
Thank you. You know who you are if you're listening. I appreciate you. He's really chill.
Those giant white belts will injure you.
Yeah. But that one I didn't fully notch up to I injured myself on his muscular 265-pound frame. Damn it. But, you know, valuable lesson. I learned that, right? You ever get in a fight with a 265-pound jack dude, you're better off running away.
Yeah, don't shoot a double.
Do not. That's a bad idea. Yeah. We're an hour and 15 minutes. Look at that.
Ready?
Yeah. Probably should call it.
So much bourbon left.
We talked about a lot of things here. That's good, dude. Good conversation. Nice to get to know you a little bit on that side. I you know, if I'm ever hurt on the side of the freeway, you have my permission to stick your finger in whatever orifice that's needed to stop the bleeding. Let me just put that caveat in there.
Bleeding. For the possibility of bleeding. You heard it here, folks.
You know what I never got to do and I always wanted to do? Sidebar. I meant to say this earlier. Is it a pneumothorax? Lungs are collapsing. I wanted to needle him.
Needle thoracostomy.
Yeah, dude. You've done that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and chest tubes.
God damn, I'm so jealous. I got a needle. So I'd go to the ER all the time because you'd take people in there for blood draws for DUIs. And I just I wouldn't steal it, right? This isn't, you know, I'd ask permission, but I had like suture kits. I had all this shit. And I got like the kit to do that. And I was like, you know, I got some verbal training on how to do it. I'm like, all right, I am waiting. I will do this to somebody, or I'll do it to myself. And, you know, I got permission from my beat partners. I'm like, bro, if you ever need this, I'm going to do it. And I know it's against policy. I'm going to get in trouble, but
It's against the law,
but I'm going to do it.
All right.
And I might save your life, or I might kill you. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to kill somebody with a needle. You can make it worse, but.
Okay. I mean, I could get rid of the evidence pretty quickly, right?
Yeah,
you wouldn't even see the hole.
Yeah. Even if you're successful, just bury the body somewhere.
A little hard to do when it's your B partner, but you know, hey, we'll make it work. Anyway, yeah, never got to do it. Maybe my day will come. Hey, maybe it'll be you. You're out there on the side of the road, and I'm gonna stick a needle in your chest.
Take pictures, put it on.
Yeah,
YouTube.
I'll get a waiver filled out real quick before I do it.
Yeah, sign for you.
Screw.
Don't die. Sign this. All right, here we go.
Oh man, thank you. I apologize if that was traumatic for you. Maybe it's interesting because I think a lot of the public doesn't get to hear this side of things, and we managed to relate it to North Idaho, which is important because this is a podcast about North Idaho. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you got something out of it. Shoot us questions. Do you want questions for Pat? Let me know. I'll connect you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, brother.
That was fun, dude. Yeah, that was therapeutic as well. Always good to get these conversations out.
Looking forward to that third Saturday, man.
I'm in, dude. Here's one thing. I don't have a lot of skills in life, but I will fucking show up.
Nice. That's all you got. Yeah. That takes care of itself.
That's been my entire life, skill set is like, I will show up when I say I'm going to show up. And it's got me a long way in life.
Hey, well, your first one's free because we know you're going to come back and get your money.
Oh, perfect. Love it. Thanks, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And happy Memorial Day to you guys. Yeah, I hope you're out, thinking about those that are lost in the line of duty, whether it's as veterans or for me, like, I don't know a lot of veterans that pay the price personally, but I do know some cops. So that's to them.
Cheers to those.
Cheers.
Fellas.